We are back for another episode of the Capes and Tights podcast right here on capesandtights.com. I'm your host, Justin Soderberg. This episode, we welcome back to the podcast Jeremy Haun, as well as welcome Jason Hurley to the podcast to discuss their writing of The Approach over at Boom Studios. They also co-wrote The Beauty over at Image that came out a number of years ago with issue 29 wrapping up in 2019. But The Approach is a 5-issue miniseries over there at Boom Studios. This is the episode's main theme, and we talked about a bunch of other stuff as well, obviously, as we do on these episodes. So enjoy this episode with Jeremy Haun and Jason Hurley, co-writers of The Approach and The Beauty, right here on the Capes and Tights podcast. Enjoy, everyone. Welcome to the podcast, you two. How are you guys?
Doing wonderful.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. I'm loving it. I'm loving to hear that. It's actually sunny here in Maine, where we had like 2.5 straight weeks of rain, basically, like with like one afternoon of it being sunny. And that one afternoon it was being sunny, my son was sick, so like it didn't even matter. I didn't even know it was sunny outside.
Right.
So it's nice to actually have some good weather up here. But yeah, here to talk comic books. You guys are busy people, so I'd love to. Thanks for taking time out to chat and discuss The Approach and more. But regular listeners to the podcast, obviously listen to Jeremy back on episode 70 to talk about The Approach and things like that. But
yeah, and I'm sorry to all of them.
Yes, exactly. That you weren't
Sorry
here, or the fact that you had to listen to.
Jeremy without me is just not as fun.
That's fun. No, I say, oh, it's fine. Whatever. To each his own. No, but Jason, give us a little just input on how you got into comic books. If you want to listen to how Jeremy got into comic books, you can go back and listen to 70. Look at that, like a little promoting, getting
definitely check out the archives.
But like, just give us a quick synopsis on like how you got into comic books in the first place.
Well, I've worked in comic shops since I was 13, 14, so a long time. And my brother and I opened a comic shop of our own. I worked there for 13 years before I retired about a year and a half ago. And during that time, Jeremy and I met each other through me being his retailer and got to talking about creative stuff and ended up working on books together. So I kind of broke in sideways into the industry. I was kind of already there on the retail side, but worked my way over to creative.
Yes. Well, it's nice to have that retailer aspect of like, how knowing what it's like to run a comic book store.
Sure. Yeah. It definitely gives me a different perspective than most creators.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's not
a lot about that though. I mean, that's the thing that I think that like along the way, every project that we've done, I've been like, okay, take off the creator hat and now put on the retailer hat and talk to me about, like, why we need to approach this in a different way. And forgive me for saying approach so often. But like there have been so many times where we talked about marketing something or building something.
Right.
Well, I've got a train here. I don't know if you all can tell that I've got a massive train blowing by.
It is right there too.
Yeah.
I thought you were on a train.
Out the window.
I thought you lived on a train. You were just like
just let it finish. Just
sit back and take it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you have that ability to have that retailer side of things that maybe other people don't have in that sense. And you guys did a tour, right, to different shops?
Mm-hmm. We did, yeah. We did what was that? Almost 2 months.
Yeah.
We spent. Well, you spent on the road. I kind of went on and off a couple times, but
you were the smart one. You went home and saw your family a couple times. I pretty much just stayed gone for 7 weeks kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's a great. I mean, like one of the things I guess like as the retailer balance that we talk a lot about is like and as creatives we talk about like, is it worth it to do things, right? Is it worth it to do? I mean, look, everything from like doing podcasts to staying on social media to doing stuff like tours. And I've always been of the mind that like most things are worth it if we are able to connect with an audience. Mm-hmm. And and sometimes Hurley keeps me in check and he's like, well, that's kind of silly, but I think that it is really nice to have that ballast of his experience as a retailer when it comes to the making things side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's nice, especially during that tour, we were able to connect directly to some of those comic shops, and a lot of creators don't think about the fact that while you are marketing your stuff toward readers, your first customer ultimately is that comic shop, because then you need them to sell that to the readers. So making that direct connection can only help us in the future, and can only help them as well.
Yeah, and I mean too, it's a great reminder. I've had a lot of people ask about the tour. A lot of creators ask about the tour. Oh, yeah, again, is it worth it? Right?
Yes, that's a big question always.
Yeah, but the reality of it is putting a personal face on the people that are selling your things, going and meeting those people, getting to talk to them, getting to go out and have meals and ask, how, I mean, this is a crazy industry. How is the industry going for you? What are you focusing on? What, even learning, the beyond the struggles, the things that really make these people stick with it and put, day in, day out, hours and hours, into the thing. And I think that the comics industry is fantastic and weird in the way that, like, yes, you can go to New York Comic Con and go get, the cast of your favorite movie to sign stuff, and you can kind of get a picture with them and stuff like that. But the comics industry still has this personal aspect where there is a fairly direct opportunity for interaction between the people making the things and the retailers that are selling those things and the fans that,
Mm-hmm.
We go chat at a convention, that sort of thing. And it's an opportunity for personalization that's different than just about anything else out there.
Yeah, and making that personal connection as far as the is it worth it argument is, it's a long-term investment.
Yes.
You make that personal connection with those people, and you end up with a reader for life rather than a reader for the series.
Yes, exactly. And I think the name, my LCS, like if someone were to swing in there and sell, set a table up and sign autographs and promote their book, in all likelihood, when they go to buy books that have, the creator's name on the book, that they actually came and took time to talk to their customers, it may, no matter whether the book's going to be good or not, they're like, oh, I'm going to purchase that book and put it on there because I've seen them, I've met them. Mm-hmm. And the same thing goes for the customer. I don't know how many comics that I read nowadays or collect that I either met them at a convention or a store signing or had them on the podcast and was like, for some reason, I like what they do, but I like it 10%, 15% more because they took time out to talk to me and have a conversation and meet them and so on and so forth. That now I'm readers for life, no matter what that person writes, draws, or whatever. I'm probably going to pick that book up because of that connection. And that's what you got by going to shop to shop to shop and promoting the book like the approach.
That's what we're going for, at least.
But I mean, obviously, you guys like working together with each other, and so I mean, obviously, like you mentioned, Jason, you didn't go on you didn't like leave home for 6 months and go with. You stopped in and out, but like you obviously wrote the approach, the beauty together, mm-hmm. and you wrapped that up in 2019, and then the approach. What led from the beauty, finishing up the beauty, to wanting to work together on something like the approach?
Well, we had wrapped it up, the beauty, and we had several other projects. That when you spend that much time together, you end up talking about other ideas. I mean, we've got mm-hmm. a list of 20 properties that we could probably do together that we have talked about over the years, and just trying to figure out what the good fit for the next project was, and trying to keep it. We'd already done the big sprawling story of the beauty that we played out over several years. And we wanted something that was a nice tight mini series, something that we could do all in once with one continuous theme, and really just get a short series under our belts. So it's kind of how we came to the approach.
Yeah. I mean, it's, so much is about the relationship. I mean, I think if there's a theme for this entire chat today, it is talking about, the relationships that you build, whether it's, the creators that you work with, or fan interactions, or retail interactions. There's just something about maybe I'm getting old and sappy. I now have been in this industry for well over 20 years, and I just want to work with people that I like. I just want, this no matter what, this is a job.
Mm-hmm.
The best experiences, are still there's still a situation where you are spending long hours in a room making things, and you want to do that with people you like. You want to do that with people that challenge you in the best ways. And if you're removing the stress of making something out and the reward of making a project, you still want to have somebody that you want to hang out with when everything's said and done. And I think that was an opportunity for us to sort of be like, okay, we're not going to spend 5 years again making this large scale story. Not yet, maybe again down the road. Yeah, we've got things that definitely fit
certainly
the model. But like, let's just do something that's like us playing. Yeah, because there's a different thing, like, building a large scale story like The Beauty, one that, like, we were just talking about earlier, the idea that, like, it began in one place and very much stayed true to everything that we wanted it to be, but it morphed and changed along the way and became so personal and kind of a tale about the lengths that we go to look a certain way, but also the humanity behind that. And we're like, that's great. It's a large scale sprawling thing, but let's still take that care for character and apply it to just a classic, monster story. People trapped in the snow.
Yeah, and, like taking all that character stuff, but then combining it with something big and bombastic like a monster story.
And that's what you get with the approach. I mean, the approach came out in what I had here, October of 2022. And then you wrapped up the 5-issue miniseries over at Boom in March of 23. And the trade, we just figured this out, August 16th is LCS's and bookstores is August 22nd. I just love this one line. The best thing ever. It feels like a cheesy horror movie line, and for some reason, but the end where it says a storm is coming and it's bringing more than bad weather. I feel like that's like the tagline at the bottom of like a 1980s horror film. Right. And I love that line. I love personally, first of all, I would have loved to see more work done by Jeremy in the idea that you should have illustrated the entire thing, but that's just me being selfish. But you could not have partnered with a better artist for the interiors of the approach than was it Jesus Hervás?
Yeah, Jesus did some great stuff, especially his creature design is off the hook.
Yes, yeah. So I'm so glad that was the partnership you went with and did that. Is that something that Boom connected you all with, or was that something you guys knew ahead of time that you guys wanted to work with?
I mean, we both enjoy Jesus' work.
Yeah, I think Chus had done some other stuff with Boom before, though, hadn't he?
Yeah, and Boom came to us with a list of potential creators, and once we saw the creature design that he did, we were just like, okay, we're in. Like
yeah, we gave him like maybe 2-3 lines of description, and he got what we were going for. Like right off the bat, we talked about evolutionary. We need it going from small to big and different changes along the way, and he just nailed it like out of the park first try. It was crazy.
Yeah, well, I think that and I think that's a thing. Like working with people that get the concept.
Yes,
I really, and again, taking it back to working with people that you enjoy working with. I never want to work with an artist that isn't into the concept. Like if we're telling a monster story, you gotta like monsters. That's the reality of it. And again, Jesus just did such an amazing job with that initial creature illustration that we were like, okay, this is it.
Yep.
And I'm incredibly happy with it. You joked that wanting me to draw everything, and look, I have that weird thing that like I'm not a control freak in the way that like I'm angry that I'm not drawing stuff. But like we talked when I drew the first arc of The Beauty.
Yes.
And then I had other obligations that I needed to do, but we wanted to continue the series. And so the promise that Hurley and I made one another was like, we're only going to bring in people that are as good or better than I am, and hopefully better, like I love that thing about, like we had on the beauty, we had such amazing, group of talent that kind of came in and worked on the book. And I was so proud of the idea that there was a standard that we set and we kept. And that's something that's kind of followed through everything that I've done since. I've been like, okay, well, whether it's Danny Luckert on The Red Mother, or, getting even like Juan Doe. Recently, I did a DC story, Green Lantern story. It was a short story for one of the Halloween specials. And like Juan's stuff on that was just so perfect and spot on. I don't know. So it's nice. Yes, I'm with you. I'm greedy too. In my head, I'm like, I want to draw this. I want to draw that. But the reality of it is, my work isn't getting any less detailed now that I'm, as time goes by, and I'm probably a little bit slower than I do for my own physical and mental health. We talk a lot about, like the toll it takes on your back to draw something. It's the anti like hauling bales of hay, right?
Yes.
You're hunched over, which is seized up in that sort of thing. But I do want.
We got him for covers at least, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
And always, well, and two, I think there was a moment, like you talked earlier, Hurley, about that. We have a list of like 20 things that we could do together. There is a list of stuff that he and I can do together, and then there's the Hurley list, and there's the Jeremy list. Like we each individually also have another list that we can do on our own. And I think there was a realization that I had pretty early on where I was like, okay, if you want to really develop a graphic novel or a miniseries and do it right, it takes about a year now.
Yeah.
So if we have, real ready to go concepts, even if we have 6 of those together, that's 6 years potentially that we could be spending doing that stuff. Not even the stuff that I just want to do on my own. That's probably another 10 years of my, so it's like, I would love to think that I still have 20 more years in this industry doing this, but I don't really particularly want to, have to be in some sort of strange hanging apparatus in order to draw without, massive pain or something like that. So
and lest anybody fear, there are definitely things both on our list together and on Jeremy's list by himself that we probably won't move forward with unless Jeremy can draw them.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's stuff like that too.
Yeah. Well, that's actually a really important distinction to make. I think that there are stories that I have to draw. Like there are things that like that's just what that is and how that's going to be. And it's not even like a lesser thing. It's not like this is an A story and this is a B story, so I'm only going to draw the A ones. I don't really like working like that. I only want to tell stories that we're really proud of. Again, because we don't have that much time to be able to do all this stuff. But I think that it's more what the content of the story is, how like this is a story for me to draw. Like this, there is a need for me.
There are certain things that we can only see. We see them in Jeremy's style, and just can't see them any other way.
Which makes sense. I mean, you have a style to your own thing, and you picture it the way it is. I mean, it took another Midwestern person, Scotty Young, a little while to stop drawing I Hate Fairyland and having Bean come in and do it in such a style that is very similar. It's very nice, but like it probably took Scotty mindset of I got to step away from this. I can't do it all the time, because also if we didn't get someone else like Jesus drawing the approach, we wouldn't get the other stuff that you want to do, Jeremy. Like this, you can do 2 things at once. You probably would have just had to focus 100% on the approach if you were drawing it and writing it with Jason here.
Right. Absolutely. Well, and I've talking about Scotty, like, he and I talk about that a lot. Like that thing about like, having to really pick which things you're doing, but then the reason behind it. And if you look at, I mean, look, both he and I have been, and Hurley and I have been really fortunate in working with incredibly talented people that bring so much to this thing. It's like, do you want the creator to always do all the things? Yeah, I'm greedy. I always want Scotty to do
everything,
everything that he's working on, but then you start like Jorge that he worked on Middle West with, and then the Me You Love in the Dark, and like you look at that stuff and you're like, well, that's so Scotty, but he's able to do something and bring a different level to it because he's working with somebody else. And there's stuff, Danny Luckert and I basically, since working together on The Red Mother, have been like, okay, we've got to do this again, like very, very soon. Like we've got to figure out what the next thing that we're going to do is. And there are moments in The Red Mother that I know I could have drawn. But I couldn't do what Danny did. I couldn't take and for as cliche as it may be, like there is so much soul to the art, to the thing that someone draws, and when they're tapped in the right way.
Absolutely. The best combos, you end up with like a 1 + 1 = 3 kind of situation, because you see something and it comes through and it's filtered through somebody else, and that's not all what I was envisioning, but that is excellent, and you're never going to get that working by yourself.
Well, if you think about like we talk about the Beauty and how you illustrated the first arc of the Beauty, and that's Jeremy and Jason working on the Beauty's first 5 issues. Obviously, you had a lot of colorists and all that stuff too, but like you think about it with the approach, you had a third person also to help you with anything small, like you mentioned, the character designs and things like that, like that was able to have another mind to help you guys create the product you did, and which is great. And if you have someone that you mentioned as good or if not better than what you were doing, then it's not really a problem. You know what I mean? Like it's just a beneficial thing. And, yes. And you might have gotten people who read the approach because they're Jesus fans. Like that's the thing. And like you may have people who read it because they're Jeremy Haun fans, or people that read it because they're fans of both you guys together. Like it all comes together, and having that extra person on there helps. I will say that I do also, like I said, I appreciate the work that Jesus put into it, because it's absolutely beautiful on the inside of this book. And as a person who lives in Maine, who sees snow all the time, I was very happy with the way the snow looked in the book. I don't know what it was, but I feel like most illustrators or people who are working on comic books and creators like use this more like, I hate to say it, like a rough snow effect on it.
Yeah,
the big snowflakes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think that this is more, I don't know, there's something about it that really, caught my eye, as well as it being in an airport and then being snowed in an airport. I am very, very, very used to that. That happens quite often up here. That's why we don't usually fly on vacation in the wintertime.
Hurley actually worked in the Joplin airport for years.
Yeah, a lot of that is from personal experience, not the monster part, but
it's not a monster living in the Joplin airport.
But I mean, the big snowblower that plays into the finale of the book is very directly based on a snowblower that I used to have to drive. So I'm very familiar with clearing snow off of airports and runways.
I thought that was based on a true story. That's what I thought.
I mean, like 98% of it probably.
That's a true story. But yeah, like it's like one of those, I don't know. I just the idea of it being trapped. I feel like there's a horror stories that the horror is the monsters that you don't know about, but also being trapped in a place where you really can't get out of. And an airport seemed like a very good setting. Was that like this was gonna be a monster story at an airport, or did the airport come later? Monsters later? How did that part of it come into effect?
It was more trying to focus on minimal settings, minimal characters, trying to make it all happen in one location. Like I say, we'd already done a big sprawling story that took place over years, not only in real time, but within continuity time. And we wanted something, basically, as opposite of the beauty as we could do. Yeah. Instead of a big sprawling arc, a short story, instead of multiple locations, one location, instead of this big sprawling cast across multiple continents and years, one, a small contained cast in an isolated location.
Mm-hmm.
So
we're both fans of isolationist horror.
Oh, yes. Certainly.
I think that you hit on earlier talking about like, the 80s, the 80s horror stuff, that's whether it's, The Thing or we talked a lot about the episode of the X-Files, Ice, where they're trapped in an Arctic substation, but then even things like Assault on Precinct 13, and there's all those really great one setting trapped in a thing by a thing,
a bunch of people all caught together by happenstance. There's no other reason that those passengers and those airport workers would be in the airport at the same time, except for that it all happened when this particular flight came in.
Yes, right. And that the idea that you could have done this with just the people that were in the airport, but the fact that the plane landed and all those people got off the plane, and now they're like off the plane into this airport, and then shit starts happening too. Yeah. You're like, finally we landed safely at the airport in the snowstorm, and then you're like, oh shit, maybe we should have stayed on the plane.
Well, we like those things. I like the idea that, because so much of it's a story, by the end, I mean, it's a story about survival, but it's a story about, selflessness, and like, because there's your job, right? Mm-hmm. That's their job. They're supposed to protect these people and, keep them safe. But then there's also the humanity of it, deciding that, like, all right, even if that means possibly dying myself or bodily harm, I am going to make sure that these people are safe. Mm-hmm.
And expanding it to not just the people at this airport, but if this thing gets out of the airport, then the rest of the world has to deal with it. We can't have that.
Well.
Right.
I will say that I've been to a lot of airports where there's been like, layovers and canceled flights and stuff like that. I mean, is it Mark? Is that the main character, Mark, the dude?
Mac.
Mark? Yeah. Mac. Yeah. He immediately tells them to like break open the vending machine and get food. I'm like, that seems like immediately. I'm like, I want to go to this airport. Well, not because of the monsters, but like it just seemed like they were like, oh, I'm going to take care of these people a lot. And what's funny is when I read the first issue of The Approach, I want to say my wife and I were behind the times on it. I want to say we watched Station 11 like 2 or 3 months prior, and I was drawing the comparisons in that sense too, because obviously that aired at the beginning, or the book came out a little while ago, but the show aired the beginning of 2022 and of 2021, and the idea that they were also in an airport in that, and they were using the vending machines to get the food out of it and things like that too. Obviously, a post-apocalyptic style there. This is monsters and so on and so forth. But I was just like, it was like that cool, like they were almost like felt like they were stuck in an airport, which is kind of cool. Like I said, that to me alone, I would not want to live a long time in an airport in the first place, let alone have there be monsters there.
it does. We actually we had put off watching Station 11 because of the direct reminder of COVID, and like there is stuff in that show that we were, so many of us were in Chicago for C2E2, and in 2020.
Yep.
At what for a long time was the last comic book show, right? And I remember being in the airport in Chicago, and like we were supposed to go to in a week, we were supposed to go to Seattle for Emerald City.
Yeah.
And Lori and I were sitting there, and we were like, there's always the news on or whatever, but you tend to, play on your phone or talk or, get food or whatever. And like, there was that weird moment where like, we realized everybody was looking at the TVs, and there is a moment almost exactly like that in Station 11. And we knew that it was about a pandemic. So we're like, let's put it off. And we actually watched it in March, just recently. And it's a beautiful, lovely, haunting, heartbreaking story that I loved it. But holy hell, yeah, you're right. I don't ever want to be trapped
in an airport
for that long.
Like I said, and let alone knowing and writing the story like The Approach, that there could be a random plane landing that has a little bit more to it than meets the eyes at the very beginning. I mean, this 5-issue miniseries, you mentioned the idea of doing something smaller after doing something like the Beauty. So this was going into it knowing 5 issues done, but not giving too much away in the actual series. It does seem like there could be more. Is that an idea that it could go at some point, or is it basically this is it? This is what we're getting for The Approach?
So it was very much intended to be a done-in-one story. Like we wanted, in the way that like even so many horror movies that we know and love, there's always that little sting at the end, and you're like, maybe more. We knew what we wanted to do. We had a very clear idea, and then we were here in my studio writing. It's really funny when we write. We typically write in the same room. Even though he has an office and I have an office, we almost always write in the same room.
Yeah,
with our computers on our lap. We look like we're playing Battleship, basically. It's like, and
like the two of us with our laptops across the table from each other.
Yeah, and like,
seriously.
Like he'll type something and then I'll chuckle, and then like it's a really positive way for us to work. It's very effective. But we were finishing the last issue of The Approach, and we stopped to get lunch. And
essentially over lunch we were just bullshitting like what would happen after the last panel.
Yeah. And we were going to drive to get sandwiches in Web City. And so it's about a 15-minute drive there. And so, we ended up spending 45 minutes, almost an hour on, just going there and back and getting our sandwiches. And damn it, by the end of that hour, we were like, we could do at least one more arc, but probably two.
Yeah, we accidentally broke a trilogy over lunch.
Yeah. And I don't know if we're ever gonna tell more, but we could. And
that possibility's there.
Well, and I think that's the thing with so many stories now.
We definitely didn't do like the thing when you go watch a movie like Jumper, and like you realize that the whole movie was just the setup for a trilogy. That was never anywhere near our intention. We had a story and completed it, and then realized that we could do more with it, rather than assuming that we would always have more.
Yeah. Well, and I just think that right now it's a really interesting, somewhat tricky time making things. I don't want to be all gloom and doom, but if you look at the landscape of comics, especially with companies that focus a lot in creator-owned stuff, it's shifting and changing. I mean, like companies are literally going from being in the creator-owned vision business to some of them are going out of business completely. Some of them are folding in massive ways. Others are changing the purview of what they're doing and how they're doing it. They're going from being like, we're diving deep into creator-owned to being like, well, we also know that properties are kind of the thing that sell. And I can't really hold it against. I've seen enough of this industry to know the bigger picture, the larger scope of things, and I think that we all kind of it's easy to get angry or stressed out or worried or about the business of it. But I do know that people are trying their best, and people do want to make good comics, and those of us who are going to keep doing this regardless are just going to keep finding ways to make stuff. And so I think that one of the biggest things that Hurley and I talk a lot about is intentionality with the things that we make. Like we're not really making stuff, we're not really throwing paint at a wall. We're trying to choose projects that are the right projects at the right time with the right companies. And, look, if a company is willing to back me or us and they're passionate about that, I'm gonna really try to make something amazing happen. Rather than being somebody that does stuff and they're like, hey, I'm not as crazy about working with this, but it's a paycheck.
Yeah.
I don't have any interest in that. That's not that's just not how I work. If I'm going to tell a story, it's a story that I want to tell. I'm probably going to choose a company that lets me tell the story I want to tell the way I want to tell it. But there's all, there's ultimately too, it's like if something is not right with a company, there are other avenues out there. You can, I literally did a Kickstarter for a project because I was like, I don't know if anybody's going to let me tell short stories. I'm going to tell short stories, it's just do the things and put them out there again with intentionality. Just do it in the right way.
And I think the miniseries thing is huge right now with people. I think that I am a big fan of like 5 issues. I can do it. I can commit to buying all 5 issues of the approach. I commit to waiting. If you're going to trade, wait. You can commit to wait that one trade, know it's all there. But leaving it to the point where it's slightly open-ended, not to the point where it's like a cliffhanger at the end of there where you're like, oh, I wonder what happens next. And they just never do anything with it. It's the idea that like if you wanted to and there was enough love and the trade sells like bangers and you're like, oh my gosh, we need to tell more, you can tell 5 more issues and do, the approach colon whatever, and it's continuation of the first one. Maybe we're going to have to read the first one. Maybe it's one of those ones where people are like, oh, it's just another those things are great. I think in the comic book world, when you have this ongoing aspect of it where it's like, I don't know if I commit to issues 1 and 2, do I want to say, okay, this is gonna be 30, 40 issues? I don't know if I want to commit to the entire thing. But if you do it in segments of 5 issues where they're like, okay, this is it for now, maybe down the road we'll finish it or do some more with it. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a nice thing to see, out there. I think that's a nice, I could commit to 5 issues, 4 issues, 5 issues, whatever it may be. It seems like nowadays it's starting to go, it was 6 issues, now it's 5 issues, then it's 4 issues. Next thing you know, you guys are going to be doing one shots and that's like
Well, I think that there is a realization, like forever it really seemed like people were sort of doing stuff because it needed to be a set thing, right? Like it has to be 5 issues because of this. And now I think people are thinking a lot more about what's the story? Frankly, if you have a story idea that is a short story, sometimes you can make it into a one shot or a mini series. Sometimes you can't. And I think that you have to, as creatives, again, like my interest is, are we telling something because it's the right format for that story? Yes. Don't give me a one shot that you suddenly made into a 6-issue miniseries because you're thinking about it from that aspect.
And because we can always tell. Everybody can always tell.
Yes.
You know that it's just padded out. You get to issue 3 and you're like, 2 pages of this are relevant.
It's exactly. It's a 3.5 hour movie that could have been a 2.5 hour movie, but or 2 hour or hour and a half movie, honestly. But the approach I think is it's that nice sweet spot where 5 issues is enough. I mean, you guys told the story. I never felt like it was dragging. I never felt like it was too bloated or it could have been longer. I think it's one of those things that, I mean, there's a number of we have a book club over at my LCS where we read trades and graphic novels, and we've read a couple of them that I'm not going to throw out there, but that we felt like, okay, they felt like they rushed that 5 issues. Like it was like they weren't going to do more than 5 issues and they wanted more. There was 10 issues worth of story, but they needed to shove it into 5 issues so they can get that graphic novel or trade out there or whatever. Or, it could have been 3 issues. There was a lot of stuff in the middle there that just didn't. And there is space for it. There's place for artwork that's great, splash pages that are great, so on and so forth. But like sometimes it's just like that the approach seemed like it was perfect, and it ends up into a nice, clean 5-issue trade that's going to come out from Boom. And it's nice to have that. I mean, speaking of that, I mean, so you had The Beauty came out, Image, the almost 30 issues, 29 issues. What was the decision of going to Boom? I mean, I know you had Red Mother over at Boom and stuff like that too. Was that just a pitch and they wanted it, or what happened with that?
I mean, I think a lot of things start out with relationships. There's this great line in it's a little bit of a deep dive, but in the audio commentary on Full Tilt Boogie, which is the documentary about the From Dusk Till Dawn, Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez are talking on the commentary about, you know, when you're 15-year-old kids, you get on with your buddy and you talk on the phone every day, right?
Mhm.
Like, you know, and like you talk on the phone every day, and then you go over to their house and you hang out, you play video games and as you get older, it's like life and responsibilities and family and all these things kick in. And so like if you and the thing they talk about that, like, if you want to be able to hang out with your friends, you kind of have to make a movie together, right? Like that's ultimately the thing. And I think that kind of carries over to a lot of this. It's like, if you know, if you want to be able to hang out, you gotta kind of make the thing together.
Mhm.
Yeah, everybody's got a job, everybody's got a family, but if you can make sure that your jobs sync, then you can hang out at work.
And have fun doing it, right?
If you got the right job, yeah.
If you get the right job. I mean, you guys need to like each other, so that's fine, right? You guys aren't like,
We get along
it's
okay,
not,
yeah.
well, yes, it's not horrible working with each other, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, I think it's actually funny because I think that, like, you know, we are both so independently busy that making sure that we can write together is a great thing. But then, like, lately, as he's working on his stuff and I'm working on my stuff until we figure out, you know, the right time for the next thing together, you know, we have to be like, oh, well, let's go and watch a movie together.
Yes.
Let's go do this, you know, like just to kind of have that experience. And, you know, not to get too glum, but I think that there is a thing, you know, as you get older, but like male relationships specifically, because that's the ones I know, you know.
Yes.
But like male relationships in your 40s get it's harder. Like it's hard,
Mhm.
you know. You got you got to take, you know, we've both got sons that are individually at different places in their lives. You know, his kid, he just took him to a debate tournament, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
you know,
actually, like I think today was the first time, like right before we started recording this, I went over to Jeremy's house for a while. I think it was the first time we were in the same room together in over a month.
yeah,
Because
it's
his son's been doing stuff, my son's been doing stuff, and you know, the summer starts and suddenly we're booked on 100 other things. So
Mhm. Well,
So
it's true. I knew what you were saying there. The idea that as you get older, really, I mean, my co-host on this show for a while there, I mean, it was pre last time you were on, Jeremy, but he moved to Indiana, or back to Indiana, I should say. And it was like, oh, we're doing this right now, right? You guys are in Missouri, I'm in Maine. We can do it this way. Literally, I text him sometimes, and like 2 weeks later, we respond. We both respond to the messages. It's just like he's in one place, he's doing one thing. I have a 2-year-old. We're doing one thing here, trying to get this thing, you know, whatever. And our relationship is just like when we have time to text each other. You know, if we were in the same town, I would do the same thing. Where it's like, no, I'm coming over right now. We're gonna hang out. I'm forcing you to hang out with me right now to keep this relationship going. But like, we also know, that like, if I don't text you right away, where I'm busy, and then he doesn't get upset about it, and so on and so forth. And I was speaking to my wife the other day. We were driving back from our camp, and I was speaking to my wife. I was like, oh, you know what? I've talked about the idea of bringing a co-host back onto the show, like having someone else to do this. And then I realized how much harder it would be to schedule it, like to try to figure out our schedules matching. It already is hard enough now, but like having to like be like, okay, is it cool for this time? Is this cool? And then if he's not here half the time, what's the point at that point? And so it's like, now I'm like, nope, riding solo. Ride solo for the rest of my life.
well, but you can also find that when it's right too.
Yes,
you know?
yes.
Like, I think that's the real, like, that's the thing about, you know, even like with Hurley, me and Hurley, like he's going to do stuff that doesn't involve me, and I'm going to do stuff that doesn't involve me creatively and in life. And it's like, when you love somebody, when they're your friend, you just pick back up where you left off. And even if you know, he moves back, you know, in 5 years and wants to rejoin the podcast, you know, listen to that. You know, that's the great thing about friendship, is you just kind of pick up where you left off and laugh about.
Yeah, that's also one of the very, very, very few good things about social media is, you know, like, man, I haven't heard from Jeremy in a while, but I can see on his Facebook, oh, that's because he's in Oregon, you know. and you can kind of keep track of other people and at least see what they're up to. And then also get all the bad takes from all their frimes.
Yeah.
But
I haven't heard from Jeremy in a while. Oh, he's not on social media either. Maybe I should go knock on his door.
Yeah,
there's that.
See he's okay.
Yeah. Well, I've had a weird thing lately. And I'm trying to fight it. I'm trying to figure out what my place is. I don't really want to do social media anymore.
Yeah, I'm the very same way.
Like I said, one of the very few things that's good about it.
Right. Yeah. I had this thing, and look, the idea of reaching an audience,
yes,
is a great thing, and it's important.
I mean,
and also it's validating, right? You post about your thing, people see the thing that you drew or the thing that you're talking about, and you get that interaction, that little bit of dopamine, right? Like, but I don't really like the idea of having an audience that I've worked on cultivating for years and I have a good relationship with that don't get to see the stuff that I post because of an algorithm.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm not really gonna buy. I mean, there's like, it's weird because it's like you start thinking about advertising and how that works, and you need to do it, and you want to do it, but like the business of the business isn't exactly as fun as it used to be in a way. It used to still feel really organic. Now the companies what the companies want. And I've been fighting with it. I've really like personally been just like, like Instagram used to be my favorite platform because I could post.
They screwed it all up though.
And now I'm like a friend he posted a photo, and it was he and his partner and his kids together, and I realized that I hadn't seen the kids in so long, that they had another kid since last time I was aware that he had posted. And then I looked and I'm like the dude posts like at
all the time,
a week something, and I hadn't but it was like the random thing, and I'm like, I don't know, this is exhausting. I just kind of want to focus my energy on making things. But you still have to focus on reaching your audience. So I don't know.
Well, that's the difference in like one of those things that changes if you would do a book at DC, or do a book at Marvel. The Marvel and DC engines kind of like promote the book. They're buying the Green Lantern book that you talked about.
Yeah, you don't necessarily have to be your own machine.
Yes. Whereas now with Boom and with Image and all these other products, you have to be your own marketing. I mean, Boom has a great marketing department, is an excellent marketing department, and Boom has a great, like, they interact with me very well as well. I give Boom credit on that. But like, you have to still get out there and sell yourself, and that's something that social media was nice about for a while there. And it felt like the number of people I know nowadays and talk to that met their artist or met the writer of their book or met the letterer of their book via social media because they reached out to someone or connected or whatever was amazing. It just seems like it's slowly go down from there. I was listening to the Off Panel podcast with David Harper, and he was talking to Ed Brubaker for this morning's episode, and he was talking. Ed Brubaker goes, "Yeah, back when I used to do social media," and I was like, "Oh my god, that would have been such a great statement to say." But I just feel like this. Yeah, you mentioned it's almost impossible not to be doing it a little bit, at least for now. And it's like one of those things that like. Yeah. And if you don't post enough, though, Jeremy, you're not going to be seen by, like, that's the other part. It's like,
I know.
It's bad.
It's a stupid trap that you get stuck in. I mean, the reality of it is, and I guess for me, part of it too is, and this has almost become a cliche statement, I guess, but like genuine interaction is the most important thing for me.
Yes.
Like, but then you start realizing like genuine has actually become a marketing ploy. Like, like when Starbucks is saying, we really care about you. I'm like, no, you don't. Like,
and that's no. Yeah.
You want to sell me an $8 latte.
Yeah.
That here in Maine, you have to wait 4 hours to wait in line for because there's only one of them. So
yeah.
Which was also a big part of why we did the signing tour that we did, to get that genuine face-to-face interaction, real interactions with real people, rather than, the online interaction with their avatar.
Yeah.
Well, you weren't able to come to Maine for that tour, and so actually, I was buying something else from Third Eye Comics online, and they still had a copy of your tour
Heck yeah.
cover there
Nice.
that I was able to pick up, signed by you too. So, which was awesome, which was pretty cool seeing that.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish it was sold out already. I mean, obviously for you, for everybody's sake. I mean, I was always like, wish it was sold out by this point, but it was kind of cool to grab that on there.
I like that. I like that those things are out there. I mean, and
Yeah.
that's a really cool part of that, you know. And Third Eye is, look, every one of those shops on that tour was amazing. You know,
Yeah,
so I don't
true.
want to. I don't necessarily just want to. You know, I know Third Eye is such a leader in you know, as far as the industry goes.
Yeah.
But every one of those shops were fantastic, and they really supported the book. And I love the idea that, you know, we talked to so many of them. They're like, yeah, you know, like it's nice when you like sell out of all the copies you buy that day of that thing. But he's like, they were all like, we invest in readership, and the idea that somebody comes in and they're like, oh, that looks cool, they can get it even if they can't, because not everybody can drive to a shop. Not everybody, you know, like you said, you know, wasn't able to make it to Maine, which we probably should talk after this. I need to rectify that. Maine is a state that I've always wanted to get up to, and I haven't. And we're just gonna have to figure out how to make it a part of that next tour. So
we also have conventions here. You guys can come hang out at a convention if you wanted to. But yeah, we have two. But the funny thing is we just talked to my buddy Jay and Will, my tattoo artist Jay and my buddy Will are both the runners of the conventions here in Maine. And cool. They were talking, they're like trying to talk to some new guests to come and so on and so forth. Their event in October is October 13th through the 15th, which is the exact same days at New York Comic Con, which is awesome for booking. Just to let you know, everybody's super available that weekend. But their spring one happens in April, which is always nice, which is a little bit different from everybody else. But but yeah, you got to come up here, visit, get some lobster, some moxie.
May not be all that interested in some shows that are really large anymore.
Yes.
Cough.
Opportunities to. So, you know, maybe they should talk about that. Yeah.
Because it's funny, but what I love about Maine in that sense too is, quickly on this subject, is I do feel like it's a destination that a lot of people want to come to, they just haven't yet, or like we are a vacation destination in that sense too. I mean, our slogan is Vacation Land, and the idea, I talked to Liana Kangas about that too, and they were like, I've always wanted to you know, vacation to Maine. Maybe I make it and, you know, work it out in a way that I do the convention, then go on vacation, or vacation, then convention, and have some spending money for my vacations paid for by selling and you know, selling stuff at the conventions and stuff like that. So it is that aspect of having that ability to, I mean, whenever we have people come up, they always come, like TV guests and all these people come like a day or two prior or a day or two after, go up Bar Harbor and, you know, do whatever.
I mean, that was one of the things on the tour that we got to experience that was just it was wonderful. Like, you know, when, you know, we tooled around Annapolis, you know, we're like, hey, let's, you know, like let's go down and I'm gonna mess it up. Where was Dinosaur Land at?
That was in Virginia somewhere. It was when we were at Four Color.
Yes,
I think. But
Four Color Fantasies, the shop.
Yeah.
And we were trying to find like weird stuff to do. We're both pretty obsessed with just like Atlas Obscura is this app that you can use to find strange places all over the world. And so we found Dinosaur Land there in Virginia, and it's this campy old place where they've made like concrete dinosaurs that some are really accurate, some look like slee stacks from Land of the Lost, and it's amazing.
It was really bizarre, and we would talk to the guy the manager at Fort College Fantasy, and he was telling us like, oh yeah, that place has been around since I was a kid. He's like, I remember this one statue in particular from like grade school trips. I was like, yeah, it's still there. So they have some like really modern, really interesting statues, and then they have some that like, Jesus, what is that? And it's like it's because it's like 40-50 years old, because the place has just been there forever.
That's amazing. Well, here in Maine, we have the home of Paul Bunyan. We have a big Paul Bunyan statue.
Nice.
We got Stephen King's house you can visit, which is a great opportunity for horror fans.
I've heard of that guy.
Yes, exactly right. He's written a few books here and there. But Maine's fun to come with too. And I do what you're saying though. It's one of those things with the tour thing, and going from stop to stop to stop is also gives you the ability to see where other people are, how they do things in other parts of the country other than, Missouri, which is
certainly
different than everything else too. I mean, it's just really, it was really cool. And just circled all the way back around the idea of doing this tour. I think also it's one of those things that it might've been like, you didn't walk back from, or like get off the plane, or get out of the car back to Missouri after this tour with bags of money. But the idea that your names and the book's name and everything is out there now, that someone maybe heard of this tour afterwards is going to be able to buy the trade here in August. Weren't able to make it, but now they're going to be able to buy the trade and so on and so forth. So I feel like no matter what, it was probably a good thing you guys did that.
Oh, absolutely.
I wouldn't trade it for the world,
Mm-hmm.
No, it was a great experience, if nothing else.
Well, but also like our thinking is always long game thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Like he said that earlier, and I just, since that tour in October, I have had, I was just taking my son out to Oregon for he just graduated, so he's gonna go stay with family. He's staying with family over the summer, and on the way we took a train trip and we went to Santa Fe and then LA and then San Francisco. But like when I was in San Francisco, I actually met with shop owners, friends, from the Bay Area, and we hung out and had dinner, and those relationships, those things, that's the point. And look, I'm gonna be absolutely honest. We should, as creatives, make money doing things. Like we should,
yes.
And I never want to. I want to be cautious because I think that sometimes there's the I would do that for free kind of thing. Yeah, sure, everybody would. Like everybody would make, like, every creator coming in that would literally murder Hurley or I or anybody else in order to do what we do for free, we'll do it for free, and then they're going to be like, oh, hey, so the next one I want to get paid, that sort of thing. And we all deserve, and maybe deserve isn't the right word, but we work hard and should be able to make a living wage doing the things that we do. I have a lot of mixed feelings on hashtaggy kind of things. So I'm not going to dive super deep into some of it, but like, but the tragedy of losing creators is always hard. Recently, losing Ian was he was too young. He worked too hard. He was too good, and this happens over and over again. And that led to the comics broke me thing. And talking about that. And again, I've been very fortunate in my career. We've been very fortunate in our careers to do the things that we do. But there is a universal truth to it that we work hard to make the things that we do. And I think that in comics, like if you look at the, just out in LA, you look at the SAG strike, well, I guess now it's also
Writers Guild.
Yeah, the Writers Guild. But almost all of them are gonna. But the WGA strike was going, and then the SAG joined. The one on strike. Like we don't really have anything like that in comics, and I think it's a complex thing that But I do think that I do want to see people taken care of. And I do want to see as much as anything for sustainability. How many creators have you been like, oh, I really like what that person does, and you never see anything from them again? And it's because it's a hard industry. it's long hours. I am currently finishing up issue 2 of my Black Adam book that I'm writing and drawing for DC right now, and I've had so much fun working on that book, but the deadlines are tight. It's a lot of work, and I'm at the table drawing for. As it gets closer to the deadline, it goes from being like 8 hours a day drawing to like 12 hours a day to 16 hours a day. I'm not to the 16 hours a day part yet, but I am at the table 10, 12 hours a day right now, and
well, that's why I got you on the podcast. You know that I wanted you to sit upright, talk to me, and not bend over the table. No.
Oh, he's got a page just out of camera. He's working on it.
He's working on it. Well, that's how good you are, right? You can just do it without even paying attention.
I'm drawing with
weird
one foot here and one. Yeah.
Well, those characters look oddly like Jason and Justin. What the heck? What was he doing when he was trying that? Yeah. Wow, Black Adam looks a lot like Jason Hurley. That's weird.
I get that a lot, though.
But yeah, I mean, yes. And so I guess my point really was a little bit about the idea is that you did something that was out of the typical norm that creators aren't usually touring. I mean, we talk about Third Eye Comics. Third Eye Comics does a great job about bringing in people. If you go to their website under the comics section, they have a list of people who are doing signings at their shop, and you don't have to be there to get the signing. You pay for the comic book, pre-order it, they'll sign it, and they'll ship it to you, which is an amazing feature if you can't, if you live in an area that you can't get to these creators or being in part of these creators or go to conventions or things like that. But Third Eye does a great job. But those people that are going there are not always on tour. I mean, they're going there, doing the signing, and then leaving. And that's the difference between what you guys did too. And Ryan Brown and Charles Soule have done it too. They did the van tour, and other people have
they definitely
ripped
us off for that.
But they, I don't know, tough one. Charles is our lawyer. He might come after you if you say that. No, the it's cool and different. So I'm saying is that wasn't like you weren't going into that tour going, I'm going to make a bunch of money off of this. This was like going into the tour, trying to do promotion off of it. You didn't want to lose money on it, and you wanted to do some signings and make a profit if possible. And the idea was promoting the book in the long run.
Yeah, it was definitely
got it out there.
Right. It was a promotional tour, not a sales tour. You know?
Right. Exactly. Yes. That's actually a really great way to say it. It is. And again, the worth of it. Look, I'm willing to do it. Like and it's the reality of it is that we promoted the project, but we also promoted ourselves. We built relationships. Like we're going to have those relationships on everything that we do, and that's I don't know. It's a great thing. Like I have never been a creator that wanted to live in my high tower and then only have somebody walk in with a bag of fan mail and I gingerly pick a piece out and read it and throw it over my shoulder and then get back to I realize that that's a romantic version set forth in the 1960s by some of the world's most famous authors out there, but like that's not how we live now. That's not how we work now. And especially in comics, it's about interaction. It's about relationships.
And it's a long game. Like I say, in the future, if somebody sees one of our names on a book and gives that book a second look, just because of our names on it, because we met them that one time at that one store, that's what you're really going for.
Yeah. And I mean, now your fan mail is someone just telling how much your book sucked on Twitter, right? It's all
right.
That's your fan mail now. Hey, this book sucks. You guys should stop writing comics. No, it's a great. I love that relationship building. We talked at the beginning about the relationship, the two of you having a relationship together and be on the right and do things together, which is great. And I love seeing that frequent collaborators. Like I mentioned, I think after the beginning, Charles and Ryan did an episode with me that comes out actually this Wednesday of recording this podcast, and the relationship they have together too is awesome. Seeing them write books together and illustrate and write books together and stuff is great. Seeing frequent collaborators is amazing because it's just a nice thing to see. And again, it's two people's minds. It's two names that people can buy and look into and stuff like that. But the approach comes out August 16th at local comic book shops and August 22nd at bookstores everywhere. buy it local, but buy it anywhere, really, honestly. And the more you buy it, the more it shows Boom that this is a viable thing and that they actually,
Absolutely.
you make more money off of it. Boom wants to do work with you again, and so on and so forth. So buy it no matter where, but local comic book shops are great. Are you going to have copies? Jason, you don't have a website, do you? Yes, you do.
I do not.
No, you don't.
No.
You know, Jeremy, you have a website.
Yeah.
Do you still? Are you going to have copies on there too, or are you just waiting for like local comic book shops to have them and stuff?
I mean, I always put stuff up
Okay.
online. You know, the biggest thing that I try to put more rare or kind of exclusive stuff.
Yeah, signed stuff, variants, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Like, you know, I want people to be able to get stuff. Like that's the important thing. And I always appreciate if people want to get it from me. You know, like, look, right now, it's a weird time. It's kind of the Wild West out there. If you have a shop that you like, first go to that shop.
Yeah.
That 95% of the time, unless they're just grumpy and suck, they will be able to order it for you if it's in stock. Sometimes stuff goes out of stock, and that happens, and they can't control that. But if you go to your local shop and you're like, hey, you don't have, you know, the approach, can you order that for me? They'll get it to you, and you know, and please do that first, just because I'm greedy. I want there to be shops. I want that, you know, like I want that relationship. Read comics how you read comics. If you're a digital reader, I'm not going to yell at you because you're a digital reader. I'm going to say thank you, and thank you for supporting the industry, and I love you. But, you know, if you like the physical copies, you know, I realize we can get everything on Amazon. I get stuff on Amazon. Like that's how the world goes. But the reality of it is, you know, spend your dollars at your local comic shop. Go in, you know, support them, because it pays it forward down the line.
Well, I think it's
for your local comic shop.
It depends. If it's the difference between you buying it or not buying it, then buy it on Amazon, or don't just not buy it because you don't buy it on Amazon. But the other thing I said to mention about even my local comic book shop is I asked him every time I need a comic book or want a comic book that I either missed or heard about late or whatever, I go up to him and say, "Can you get this book?" And he goes to look it up in a system. He goes, "Sorry, unavailable, sold out at Diamond or Lunar or whatever." And so then I say, okay, the next thing I'll do is go to Third Eye comic books. I'll go to Challengers. Any of these websites that have local comic book shops for someone has great websites with great searchability and so on and so forth. And then go down the line until you find it. The other thing you should do with people is don't forget about, like I mentioned, Jeremy, your website, is that I would talk to a creator about how I went to see, I couldn't find this book and I wanted it signed by this creator. So I looked on eBay and they were selling it for $50 or $60. I went to their website, it was $15. The creator's website directly was $15. Right. They got the money, directly went to them. And it's like, so there's local comic book shops and then your online local comic book shop, as well as the creators, because you guys are also small businesses as well. So
that's actually, I know. And that's important. And I'm going to back you up on that. Like that's, if you're looking for something, you can also check with like if you can't find it, check with the creators, because we get comps sometimes on stuff.
Oh, certainly, yeah.
You know, and like,
do I have a website? No. Do I have copies of the approach in my house? Yeah. And if you drop me an email, we could probably work something out.
Yeah. And I think that's like, I would rather you get it at a fair price than you know. Like we try to keep stuff very, you know. Like, but and also, I mean, like, you know, my web store, like you can find weird, fun stuff on there. I make stickers and I make things that like you can get from me if you run into me at a show. But like, you know, I have stuff that you can only get sort of from me online. That adds to the experience of these things. And you know, and I always, you know, I'm grateful for it. So I'm like, hey, here's a little bonus thing. Hey, here's this. Hey, here's that. You know, and that's just relationship building. So yeah, you know, if you have a creator that you love, see if they've got an online store, because there may be some stuff that you can't get otherwise.
Right. Kyle Starks told me, he goes, "I'm a big cover A guy. I just like my cover A's. I think that's the way that, you know, I want to collect them." And I for some reason missed out on Where Monsters Lie #2 or whatever. I said I had to get a cover B, and he's like, "I think I've got a cover A. Do you want me to mail you one?" I'm like, "No, I'm all set. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll figure it out. You don't have to mail me one." Speaking of the Jeremy Haun sticker, my son has a like one of those motorized Jeeps. He's 2, and he drives around. Actually has a remote control. I can actually drive him around on it, and it has
Right.
a Jeremy Hahn bumper sticker on it. So they're
Very nice.
there you go. He's driving around a little Jeremy Hahn bumper sticker. But yeah,
already
yeah, exactly. So local comic book shops, bookstores too, like I mentioned, graphic novels and trade paperbacks are available at bookstores as well. So check those places out as well. But the approach comes out in August. But also grab, the Beauty out there too. Beauty has
we got 6 volumes of that
there, so check that out too, as well as obviously The Realm, Red Mother, all that stuff that Jeremy's put out as well, and Black Adam over at DC and other stuff as well. So check those all out. JeremyHahn.com, is that what it is?
Yep, that's just me.
And that's you. And follow you guys on social media and all that stuff too. I really appreciate you guys taking the time out to talk the approach. And like I said, we touched a little bit on the Beauty there too as well. But yeah, I really appreciate taking the time, talking, promoting, and I hope the book sells like gangbusters. I think people should read it. It's an amazing book, and all the success to you guys.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
And that was Jason Hurley and Jeremy Hahn, the co-writers of The Approach and The Beauty. Check out The Approach at your local comic book store on August 16th, 2023, as well as bookstores everywhere, August 22nd of 2023, in trade paperback form, collecting all 5 issues of The Approach at Boom Studios. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Make sure you follow Jason and Jeremy on social media, as well as follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can also rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast wherever podcasts are found, but also specifically on Spotify and Apple. 5-star reviews are welcome. Thanks, everyone, for listening. And until next time, peace.